So, hello, this is Shashi Saluna from LiveTantra.com. And I want to share today a little bit about how at LiveTantra, when we were putting everything together, we thought it's so important to incorporate compassionate business in with our whole model. Like for us, it's really important that we find a way to be giving back to those who are less fortunate than ourselves, and especially within the same kind of arena. And I found that on my own journey with Tantra. Like at the beginning, I was getting more into like, oh, I can be a multi-orgasmic woman, and like focused on myself. But I soon realized that it somehow needed to be balanced. And so I've had time working with women who've been raped, and actually also working with rapists, using some of the skills that I've learned in Tantra to give back to compassionate work. And I found that somehow really balances the field out, as well as for me personally. So putting Live Tantra together, we thought, how can we create a platform where people can learn about Tantra and get excited and create epic relationships, and also acknowledge that sexuality can be one of the darkest parts of our human culture. There is possibly more suffering in the realm of sexuality than any other. So it is the potential of the greatest pleasure. And sadly, it's also a potential of a lot of pain, as we know from the amount of abuse and harm that is caused here. This is partly, of course, why we feel that tantric work is so important, to be able to shine the light of consciousness down there into our sex center. And also, tantric theory would say that the sexual energy in itself, it carries our underworld, it carries our shadow self. And so we all have a personal journey to do in connecting that back up with the light of our consciousness. And of course, the love of our heart. So when we can bring those all into alignment, sex, love, and consciousness, then we feel a personal alignment. But we also have to do that globally. And so that is something that's really important to us at Live Tantra. And so when we were thinking, who can we work with, who can help us with that, I thought of this wonderful man here, Chris. So this is Chris Davis. And we met in the world of Tantra. We met at Tantra workshops. Tantra Festival, I think, was our first meeting in India. During a Tantra retreat that we had happening in the ancient Tantric temples of India in Khajuraho, he announced that he had made a film, that it was exploring the very dark realm of sex trafficking, of looking at what is going on in the sexual underworld, particularly in Asia. In fact, particularly in India, which is the country we were in. We had a very profound experience, very profound for me, of watching this film. And we were a group of 30 or 40 of us. We were a group of people privileged and lucky enough to be studying Tantra, but half Western and half Indian. And to be sitting watching this film with people from the Indian culture, and the conversation that happened afterwards was just life-changing. I found it to be so powerful, just to open up a conversation about this, to bring awareness to what is really going on in this business, in this world, and what we can do about it, right? So I guess that's why you made a film about it. Maybe you could start by just sharing, how did you end up making a film about trafficking? Was it always in your awareness, or did like one incident alert you to it?
I would probably say that the incident that alerted me to human trafficking in general was working in Central America. And I had actually ran across a woman that that I just started speaking to. And she then offered me sexuality or some sort of favors. And I told her I wasn't that interested. And she started to talk to me more. We built some confidence. And she told me that she was sold when she was 12 years old, and she had been constantly abused. She was sold by her parents, actually, and she was constantly abused and raped, and she's been forced into prostitution ever since.
Wow.
And she seemed like such a lovely soul. It really touched me, and I was somewhat aware that this was happening before, but that pushed me into finding more out about this.
Wow. Wow, so a really personal, upfront connection. Where was she from?
She was from Guatemala.
Right. So, whew, Whew. And so then you ended up filming a lot in India, right? This is
Correct.
and Nepal.
India, Nepal. We spent around 5 years making this film,
Mhm.
following different stories, following the who, the what, the why of human trafficking, hoping to find answers. Some answers we found, a lot of answers are unknown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure. Actually, it's interesting for me because I used to work in an orphanage in India when I was 18 years old. I went to India to teach, and I ended up assigned to an orphanage of little girls who were saved from, these kind of things. Different things, but some of them it was trafficking, others it was parents trying to burn them because they were little girls, others they were just kind of thrown out of the house, but a lot of darkness that I hadn't really been exposed to in my upbringing that was very difficult for me to digest. But at least I felt like I had a way of helping by, being able to be their teacher and help them out. But I had this understanding there were things going on, but it's very difficult to, you kind of hear a rumor, but it's very difficult to know about it. So your film was like, boom, here it is. Here's upfront footage, and and you actually yourself, you were living in these brothels, right? You went and had to be right in there for months on end.
Correct. Well, years on end, actually. Right up front, seeing what was going on and behind the scenes, and I think actually living in a brothel opened up my eyes a lot, because we are like, the whole entire world is living in this situation, and I don't think there's a lot of people who realize this is happening in their backyard.
Mm-hmm.
There are 30 to 60 million women and boys and men who are trafficked each year, or in the world currently right now,
Wow.
and probably around 3 million each year.
Wow.
And
it's all over the world, right? It's not just India and Guatemala, and it's we hear stories in Europe, America, even the civilized countries, we're hearing that this is happening.
It's the fastest growing criminal organization in the world.
Really?
Faster than drugs and arms.
Wow. I mean, I think what shocks me is just thinking how do we get to the point where we can do so much harm to another human being for our own gain? It's very difficult for me to process this, and I'm curious how you deal with it personally, like facing all of this. Do you have a method? Do you have a magic meditation or?
Well, I mean, I'd have to say that working with Tantra, both on the light and the shadow elements, have been absolutely essential for me during this process. And diving into the bigger picture in the world and empathy around all human beings. There's a cycle in all of this. It's very easy to go into judging, but finding empathy for both the girls who are being trafficked and also what would lead us to such despair.
Yeah, so you're right. I think, that Tantra really has tools for us to face we have to face our own shadows. We have to be able to look at desires and fantasies, including the darker ones that exist within us. And what we find in Tantra is we can kind of like take a bomb out and kind of like, what do you when you make a bomb safe? You like, there's a word for it. You diffuse the bomb. We can diffuse our bomb and also channel it. Like there's a lot of life force energy, and I know that we can transform this kind of darkness from something that's unconscious and causes harm into ourselves, that just becomes actually part of our healthy sexuality. Like it's the same energy, but it needs to be integrated, it needs to be conscious for that. And of course you're right, like it's not just like, oh, these poor women and boys, men also, like these poor victims. Of course our first compassion goes to them, but also to understand that people who can do this must also have a level of trauma to them. And that of course these are services that are being bought by somebody, and there must also, there's a lot of shame around sexual desire, and there are a lot of people who kind of feel forced into also buying sexual services, because they have no other outlet, right? That they have to kind of put on a front of having no sexuality, and then go down in the underworld to fulfill that. So yeah, understanding this is not just a simple thing of like goodies and baddies, but this is a structural problem, right? This is a cultural problem that seems to be a cross-cultural problem, a worldwide issue that is at its basis around how we handle sexuality is a big part of it anyway. Of course, there are financial things or whatever.
Correct. Yeah, human trafficking is a symptom of a much larger shadow that is not being addressed. Several shadows that are not being addressed.
So let's look at the light side of it. That you know, you have not only, of course, your film is bringing that darkness to the light, and people can watch this and become educated and see what's there. You'll need a deep breath when you watch it, but it's, you know, it's also, you know, there's also some positives in it, right? I just remember one, it's quite a few years since I watched it, but I remember this one woman who was sold off at a young age, but actually found some inner strength. Can you tell us just briefly about her? It won't spoil the film.
Yeah, she was trafficked probably around 11 years old and forced into prostitution. At times actually married, and her husband even was her pimp for a while, and beat and burned and tattered. This woman's gone through some of the hardest life I've ever heard of. And she's actually currently living with HIV that she's received as work. And the work that she's still currently doing right now and working with her sisters around this work is absolutely amazing.
So she's turned it around and become a healer and a guide for others. So yeah, it's good. There are some moments in the film where it's like, but you know, still, I feel like it's important to see. You know, we're talking about this, that it's like we want to create positivity around us and create the best relationships, and you know, create our life as positively and beautifully as we can. But it's so important to also be able to, like, in a way, I feel like we build up our own resources so that we can give back. You know, I love the phrase that says it's about money, but it's similar. But they say that wealth is the ability to be generous, and I always feel that, like, feeling good in myself when I'm in a really good place and I'm healthy and I've got all the love I need and I'm really well resourced. That gives me the ability to take care of others. You know, it's like, and I think this is so important that we incorporate this into our own self-development, that we have a way to give back. So that brings me on to sharing a little bit about the work that you're doing now. So since making the film, you have set up a charity. No, it's not called charity anymore, is it? What's it called?
Nonprofit foundation.
Nonprofit foundation. I've been told I'm very old-fashioned to use that word. So you set up a foundation that is rescuing girls, right? From how do you go about rescuing them?
Well, we actually do 3 phases. We educate and bring awareness to communities that do not have, like, in India and Nepal, a lot of the more vulnerable people that are being trafficked are people who do not have education or TV or internet. Their villages, you know, a lot of their families are making like $1 a day, and it's very easy to fall into a job opportunity. So we go to these villages and we spread awareness. As well, spread awareness through social media to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But our focus is mainly on the vulnerable.
And do they understand it? Because that's something that's so shocking in the film. Oh my goodness, like the innocence, and that these girls are promised a job or an education, and the parents give them away thinking it's the best thing for their children, not knowing that they're handing them into the jaws of a demon. It's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. So that they can really receive that, and that's great.
Yes.
Well, that's a really good, already really great work. And then number 2.
Number 2, we do rescues. So we have a recon team, a rescue team. We do lots of different ways to actually take these girls and women out of their, like, free them from their traffickers. And that's some of our more intense work, and it's needed to be done as well, because there's no, it's a life cycle.
Yeah. Where do they go? Because if you were 11 years old and sold into something, um, how is there some support from there? Is there a place, an ongoing project to put them into?
Yes, we work with several organizations that we try to get our girls into that are really great, and that's our third project that we work with both these organizations to help them get integrated back into society and find their empowerment back again, and as well as we'll be opening up our own center someday.
Fantastic. Oh, this is such good news. So at LiveTantra, we're going to be setting up an alliance. Tell me the name of the
Human Rescue Project.
The Human Rescue Project, and also as well as us as company giving back, we'll also make some place where you as a follower of LiveTantra can also find a way to give back if you wish to support. And I believe giving $30 a month is one way that you have running, so that you can bring a woman, have a rescue project for one girl, one woman, right?
Yeah. The average cost to rescue a girl or a woman from trafficking is around $360 a year. So $30 a month, you can sponsor a rescue.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's good to know that you can give back and know that something is happening. And maybe we can find a way to document a bit of the work that you're doing as we go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for all that you do. And we'll put links to Stolen Innocence so you can find a way to watch that as well. And yeah, thank you for supporting. Thank you.